What's up?
Hey, do you have internet now?
Yeah, I have internet. I'm sitting in my house with
Dude,
internet.
it's like a whole new world.
Uh, so I don't know how much it's gonna cost because they had to find the nearest telephone pole with like the box, like the
Yeah?
fiber optic cable, and then run it to our house.
Oh man.
And they told us that it might cost like $1 a meter, and that it might be like 200 meters away.
Yep.
And so yeah, we'll find out when we get the bill. But we're like, we don't care.
We just need it.
They kind of said that like, oh, I don't know if you want to do this, and they're like, we haven't had internet at our house for a month. Like, run the line to our house. You can do that. Do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So thankfully they came and
Nice. That's gotta be feeling good having internet at home.
yeah, especially since I'm trying to like make money with a remote position. I'm like applying to all these jobs, being like,
Right.
I don't actually have high speed internet.
Right.
I actually couldn't do this.
I would have to walk to the coffee shop every day.
And the coffee shop had like super slow internet.
Right.
But anyways,
Dude. Well, how's life?
it's going all right.
Yeah?
Yeah. Doing my have we started the show?
It's totally up to you if you want.
Yeah, let's just say we started.
All right, perfect. This is the Cowboys and Unicorns podcast, back after a short break of a few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, practicing some Spanish. I've got I'm going to start tutoring a little bit kids in English.
Okay.
So Kaylee works at a school, so she's kind of in contact with all these people who are like, oh, I need to know, like, I need to learn English, I need lessons. Or their kids need extra help, outside of school, or
Right.
they know people are trying to get into the school, and you have to have a certain level of English.
Right.
You have to take the test because it's a private school or whatever. So I've got my first kid that I'm 13-year-old boy tomorrow. Start tutoring. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
But yeah, just living the freelance life, writing, doing a little bit of stuff.
Yeah, you getting some freelance gigs or?
Yeah, I got the one that's going pretty well, and then I just had an interview last night for another one, the kind of a digital marketing agency out of Australia that's just like starting up, and they need a copywriter.
Interesting.
So yeah, I haven't really gotten. I don't know if like a full-time position is gonna be exactly what happens. So I'm kind of more pursuing like what's the contract work I can do.
Right.
Can I get 4 clients where the work's steady enough and the pay's good enough to?
Yeah, which is kind of fun too, because then you have a bunch of variety of things that you're working on instead of just doing the same thing every day. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, if I get enough people and stuff and teach a little English, could have quite a bit of flexibility just as far as my days go and stuff.
I'll give you $20 to just write stories about me every week.
Sure. You know what I would do? I would interview your siblings who would be more than willing to tell me stories.
Oh my gosh,
because I would need some source content, I would need some research.
That could get pretty interesting.
Yeah, and Haley's at home all day, so I could probably give her a call and
in some ways that would be a really interesting thing to pay someone like you to just ask all your friends and family and have them write up what they think about you. And
yeah, but it's creepier because we're friends.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would do that for someone who I didn't know. That'd be way less weird, wouldn't it? You're like, okay, write this blog about this person, and then you just go talk to people they know.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be nearly. That'd be like being a biographer. This would be like I don't know. That'd be weird.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be pretty strange to, yeah. Something that you already know.
It'd be interesting to do like a fake news campaign about somebody. Like I could probably run a bunch of fake news about you.
Hey, let's do it up. You might get me fired. Fake news. David Swedburg sacrifices babies.
That you joined some weird cult or something.
Right.
I started watching the show last night on Netflix called it's like Wild Country or something.
Okay.
And it's a 6-part documentary on this cult. I forget the guy's name. He's the Bhagwan or something. He's like this Indian guru that amassed this following of like hundreds of thousands of people. And it started in India, and then they moved to this ranch in Oregon.
Huh.
And kind of took over like this area next to this small community. And they had money, so they kind of bought everything. And anyways, I'm only 2 parts in, and there's 6 parts to the documentary.
That sounds really interesting.
Cults are always fascinating and terrifying.
Yeah. We watched, it wasn't like a documentary, it was just a TV show. I forget what it was even called. But it was about like this serial killer that had this cult following and then ended up like having them all join up with him in this mansion, and then they're like going out and killing people in his name and stuff. It was hard to sleep sometimes after you watched an episode of that.
Yeah. So GoDaddy is telling me that davidswedberg.com, I can buy it for $11.99 right now.
And then just start up some fake news propaganda.
David, you should buy that. davidswedberg.com.
Yeah, I probably should.
Even if you didn't pay for the hosting, you could just
keep the domain.
It's for reputation management, you know?
Right. Make sure no one else takes my name and starts throwing crap out there. So I've been a workaholic the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Weren't you in Canada?
I was in Canada for 48 hours. Or not even 48 hours. 48 hours from the time I left Morris to the time I got back to Morris.
Dude, for what? That sounds kind of rough.
Yeah, I wasn't super well thought out on my part. It was completely my trip, but I just had to go up and like implement Salesforce for a sales team there in Calgary.
Did they have Salesforce?
Like they have it, but they hadn't really been told how to use it, especially since they have a bit of a different use case. So,
yeah, I was up there once and at that location, and yeah, it didn't seem like they were fully using it.
Right. So yeah, that was it was a really good, worthwhile time, but a little rough to buzz up there and buzz back like that.
That's the only place in Canada I've ever been, and I had this idea of Canada as sort of like this like more liberal place.
Yeah.
And not that I was there very long. But Calgary seems like real like working class, industrial, like capitalistic. I don't know. It just seemed like a place in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of factories. And it just wasn't what I was imagining of Canada. Not that you can't be liberal and run a factory, but
from what I get out of it, it seems like there's just such a small population of Canada, like people, and they're spread out over so much space. And the problem, like the thing is that most Canadians, like not most, but most like true Canadians are not as liberal, but then there's just the huge populations of immigrants and different people who are all in the few big cities, and they tend to sway every single vote liberal because there's just like 4 or 5 main cities, and then there's, probably millions of acres of land that just are like, 2 people per
Right, yeah,
5-mile radius or something like that, because it's just such a huge area.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, so obviously like in the States too, a lot of, it seems like the large city centers are more, like we'll go blue more often, like in presidential elections and stuff.
Right.
And I wonder like I wonder if there's something to living in a more rural place and having more of like these ideas of self-sufficiency, whereas someone in a city, like the mindset is more the recognition of this is this huge ecosystem where there's a lot of people, and
Right.
we've got to have things in place we've got to have the programs in place to take care of everybody, because it's not like everybody, so everybody can be self-sufficient and then help out, when they see Tom, their neighbor down the road, is having a hard time.
Right.
I don't know, maybe it's just a different mindset. You're like, crap, there's a lot of people here and we don't all know each other. We got to put some more democratic policies or some more safety nets or something, because you can't do it I don't know.
Right. I wonder if it has some to do with just seeing like, oh, I'm a part of this huge group of like totally different individuals, and like starting to appreciate a little more like the differences of people, whereas smaller working class, like generally in a town, the majority of the people are going to have similar viewpoints and are more focused on, well, what's good for industry and what's good for, the primary income for our town, than looking at like big picture. Like in Morris, you're not really affected by immigration or, anything like that, because it's this farm town. So whatever benefits manufacturing and farming.
There's definitely immigration in Morris though, from like Riverview.
Some. Right, but that's more along.
It's there's a growing Latino population.
Yeah, there is some, definitely. Yeah, and then it's also just the ability to get workers who can have a visa just to come work for a little while and then go back to Mexico, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. I just wonder, like, if in a big city, so like income disparity, right?
Right.
Or income gap. That's really visible in a city, because you can walk past a homeless person and then go up an elevator in a skyscraper that's, 50 stories high.
Yep.
It's like blatant.
Yeah.
It's not as hidden, and you see like, just like as far as like the anecdotal in front of you evidence, not the actual stats or data.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's interesting. But I wish I would have had time to go to Banff.
Yeah, that would have been fun. I didn't have time to go there when we were there either.
Right. It would have been fun, but I also I had been traveling so much the month before that, and like right in the middle of a quoting implementation that's taken all my time. So I didn't really feel like spending a whole bunch of time away.
Yeah. How's Remy doing?
Oh man, she's standing on her own like for like 5 or 6 seconds. She can balance like without touching anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Dang.
She should be taking steps in the next month, hopefully. All the older people I know who had kids are like, no, you don't want your kid to walk early. I'm like, no, I actually do. Because her cousin walked at 11 months, and so I want her to walk before that.
Why don't you, or not you, but why do people say that you don't want your kid to walk early?
People are just like, they become so much more work when they can.
Oh,
like,
that's such a selfish reason,
right? They're like, every time they try and stand up, like push them on their butt because you want them to just sit and play with their toys where they're at. Once they're walking, you have to worry and you have to chase them down. And yeah, so it's totally from like basically they're like, yeah, every new parent wants their first kid to walk. And then every kid after that, they're like trying to find ways to keep them.
I'm just trying to inhibit your physical development.
Right. I'm like, no, I want a prodigy. I want her to walk at 10 months.
He's strengthening these legs. Yeah. You got sports to win later on.
Right? Disc golf championship.
No, sports, Dave, not hobbies.
Come on. They're pro disc golfers.
Yeah, there's pro chess players too.
Oh.
I'm terrible at disc golf. It's probably a sport.
I think it's...
You sweat?
Oh, yeah. I played a tournament on Sunday, just a few days ago.
Where was it at?
In St. Cloud. And it was...
How'd you do?
I did kind of bad. I basically, because of the winter, like, I didn't practice at all for like 6 months or play at all. And then I just really, really, really sucked at putting.
Oh, dang.
So I hit a lot of putts, but Gabe did really good. He took 5th.
Wow.
Out of, I don't know, there were like 30 people in the intermediate division.
I love how Gabe is like quietly above average at a lot of things.
Right? It's annoying.
It is. It's like, oh, I don't know. He's not a very loud person, and then you realize like, wow, he's talented.
Yeah, he's like quietly super competitive, so then you don't realize that it's something competitive until he's suddenly already surpassed you and there's no chance that you can be as good as him anymore.
I remember in college with him, and I'd always act like he wasn't that smart, and I was like, what'd you get on the ACT? And he's like, 30.
Yeah.
Like, what? Shut up. Like, he's like, oh, my brother got a higher score. I was like, well, that doesn't matter.
Just 30. Yeah.
What's the average ACT score? Like 22 or something?
I don't know. Probably.
Did you have to take it to get into?
Yeah, I got a 27.
That's what I got too.
I didn't have a calculator though.
Yeah.
I
just took it once. I got a 27 and I was like, that's good enough.
Yeah, same. I was like, well, 27. Hopefully that gets me in places. I'm not trying to go to Harvard or anything.
Right.
But yeah, that was, so I showed up for the ACT and they're like, okay, so like we have to check your calculator and everything. And I'm like, I don't have one. And then like everybody around me is like, what? I'm like, what? Do I need one? And then they're all like, yes. So they gave me like one of those little cheap, like a super basic calculator, but not.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I think it actually helped me because on the math questions, I didn't waste a whole bunch of time like trying to figure out something that I never was going to figure out. I just
right. It's multiple choice. It's like process of elimination and
exactly. So you just have to like, okay, you look at it. You're like, these are the 2 potential answers. You spend a couple seconds just to be like, okay, can I figure this out? And if you can't, then, or like if you don't know for sure, then you just take your best guess at it and you move on. So I spent a lot less time on math and I spent a lot more time on the other things. And I think that, you know, since it's time, I didn't waste as much of my time on stuff that really easily, like math is super easy to just sit there and spin your wheels on one question.
For sure.
That you get wrong in the end anyways. So it's like 55 here today, but it was in the 60s over the weekend.
It's exciting.
I got like a mega sunburn.
Oh, I bet.
And it's so great though. It's about time that we got spring, because it was just, I don't know, like 8-9 days ago that we had that snowstorm where the Minneapolis, they got 24 inches of snow.
I know. I keep seeing on social media, and it's kind of hard to believe that there had been so much winter.
Right.
So much. That's ridiculous.
Minnesota's just on crack cocaine, I think.
There's a hostility to Minnesota in the weather.
Yeah.
That you cannot ignore. It's like people talk about, Minnesotans talking about the weather a lot, but there's a reason for it. It's kind of in your face.
Right.
It's rude.
Yeah. It's like bipolar too. It's like, hey, we're going to give you some nice warm weather, and then who knows, we could have another snowstorm. Like, completely possible.
We're in the rainy season right now.
Okay.
I think that it's basically, we're in South America and in the mountains, so I think they basically divide up between like rainy season and not rainy season more than,
sure,
that's kind of the more important thing than whether it's spring or fall.
Yeah.
So some days it rains like in the afternoon for a couple hours, but honestly, it's not that bad. It doesn't rain a terrible amount.
Right.
Yeah, and it's generally in between like 63 and 78 degrees. So
sounds miserable.
It's pretty nice every day.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't complain if I had to have that weather every day.
No, the weather is fantastic. It's great for running.
Yeah. I need to get doing that again. Now that it's not so cold that you get frostbite on your face.
Dave, what if we signed up for a marathon together in 2019?
That'd be fun.
It'd be really fun. We'd have a long time to train, too.
Right.
Be like slowly.
And then I would just like not really train, and I would wait until like 2 weeks
3 months
before.
2 weeks.
And I'd be like, all right, time to go try running this thing.
Oh gosh. That would be so, if you finished it on 2 weeks of training, it would be death.
Yeah. You'd ruin something in your body and you'd never be able to walk again. But
oh man.
That would be fun though. Like except for you have no idea where you're going to be in 2019.
Well, I'll come back to the States.
Or we could pick like a neutral, like we could find a marathon in like Ireland or something.
That sounds like an expensive trip to run 26 miles.
Yeah.
I'm going to travel 2,000 miles so that I can run 26.
Yeah, let's do it. YOLO.
When you said the neutral location, my first thought was like Iowa.
I mean, we could go to like Zimbabwe or something too, if that sounds better than Ireland. Right.
I don't really want to race against Africans.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't really know if it's just the Kenyans or if it's all Africans are. I mean, the Kenyans are for sure the elite runners.
Right.
So I don't know, is like, if you're from Zimbabwe, are your genetics like pretty much like some dude from America?
Right.
As far as running too?
That's
maybe.
You know what we should do? We should research who has like the worst, like what people group has the worst genetics for running, and then go do a marathon there so that then we can do well.
Yeah.
Or find like a midget colony that has a marathon.
I think in Kenya, it's even like a specific area of Kenya. Like it's a specific region within Kenya where all the fast people come from.
Huh.
Like, it's not just all of Kenya.
Do you think that they're just
like you could probably be like a fast Kenyan or like a medium? Like, you're Kenyan, you should be super fast. Yeah, I'm not from that part of Kenya.
Yeah. So. I grew up 5 blocks down the street, so.
My buddy Shem went to. He said like when he was in basic training, there was a guy there who was originally from Kenya.
Okay.
Which he must have become a U.S. citizen. Otherwise, I don't know why he would be in basic training for the U.S. Army. But he said that he was like one of the fastest guys in basic training for their 2-mile times or whatever. And everybody was like, "Oh, you're so fast." And he's like, "Where I'm from, I'm like super slow."
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
But no, I'll be back in the States somewhere. I don't know where I'm moving back to, but probably like August of 2019 or July of 2019, I'll probably be moving back.
All right. Well, we'll.
Not to Morris.
Come on.
If you really want me to move back to Morris, what you should pray for is that I basically like don't get any work down here. Kaylee loses her job, and then we, end up going through a portion of our savings, decide it's just a failure, and then I move in with my mom.
Okay.
That's probably your best bet for me moving back to Morris.
I'll start praying for that then. I would feel like such a terrible person to pray for that actively. Lord, please ruin Dan's life so that he can come back to Morris.
I wouldn't really mind because I think, I don't think either it would be a good thing or, I don't think God would really help it along at all.
That's true. Either it's going to happen or it's not, and then I can feel good praying about it.
Basically, I'm saying I think if you prayed for it, it wouldn't really change reality.
Right. That's probably valid.
Can you imagine if it was like that? Like, you prayed and then God was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like you prayed that my life would be ruined and I forgot to pray that my life would be good.
Oh, gosh.
And so it didn't, like I could have canceled it out, but I failed to check in.
You were praying for the wrong things.
Right. No, you were praying for the wrong things. I just didn't pray, and so your things happened.
Oh.
Like, what if it worked like that?
Yeah, that would be a little interesting.
That's like superstitious.
Yeah, definitely. I just won't pray for that. I'll pray that you end up coming home because you decide that you miss Morris so much.
I do miss friends and family.
Right.
I miss doing this podcast though. We haven't recorded in like 3 weeks.
I know. I
didn't like it.
Yeah.
I got really used to it. Some things like content related or blog related, like, I got to do that again.
Right.
We said, and I don't know. The podcast, it's fun for me. I don't know. I missed it.
Yeah. It's totally the same for me. I just I shut down because I was in the weeds on all sorts of work stuff, and I was just, if I never text you back, I've had so many people in the last 2 weeks who've been like, "Hey, are you still alive?" Means that I'm focusing on survival mode on like one thing, and I've decided that I can't focus on anything else.
I'm going to send an email to Beth and Jared and say, you better promote David in the next 18 to 24 months. I better be getting a notification on LinkedIn that David gets some type of promotion.
Head janitor.
Is that a thing at Superior? Is there a head janitor?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I would be pretty proud to be the head janitor.
If I was a head janitor someplace, I would ask them to change my title to something with operations in it. Because, or facilities. Like
Right.
I want facilities management or operations coordinator
Yeah.
or
Yep.
something, something that's going to sell me on my resume.
Right. Yeah. Or you would just, like, you'd be called head janitor, but on LinkedIn, you'd be like, head chief of cleanliness and facility operations at such and such industries.
So I've been doing a lot of job searching and contract applying for all this different stuff.
Yeah.
I hate job descriptions, and
Like
everything.
reading their job descriptions?
Yeah, I just hate like, and I don't know if this is maybe this is just HR. I think HR is just a keyword. Like job descriptions are just a keyword dump.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Like I don't know. They're just like every single buzzword. It makes me question if I like marketing anymore because it's all like applying for jobs is all buzzwords and none of the substance.
Right.
And the substance of marketing and content and stuff is fun, like actually doing the stuff. But the articles and the job descriptions and the clickbait about it is all so much BS. It makes you want to, I don't know.
Yeah, like you could look at a job title and then read the description and it's like not even necessarily the same thing.
Right. Or there's job descriptions that basically have like every marketing function you could possibly think of that your company would do.
Yep.
And you put it in the job description.
Right.
And you're like, how does one person do all of that? They're going to spend 5 minutes a day on each thing.
Right. Yeah.
There's like PR, media relations, community relations, digital advertising, as well as product development and go-to-market strategy.
See,
Like,
but
what?
don't you think they're trying to they're throwing something out there and they're like, if we can get somebody who like meets 2 of these, we'd be happy. But if we happen to get somebody who's willing to take the little amount of money we're going to pay and do more than 2 of these things, then we're just like, we're winning.
Maybe. I think it might be testing people to see if they know what they're talking about.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
say
because
you do a job interview for some marketing manager position and they don't know about a key
right.
facet about your department.
Right.
Then you're like, wow, this person, they're not well read. Like they're not up to date.
Right, because even if you aren't proficient in each of those things, if you're going to manage people who are doing them, you at least have to understand what's the basics of each of those functions and, kind of what's the standard for the industry and be able to talk the talk, even if you couldn't necessarily, do it yourself.
I think it's also, I mean, this is maybe boring to talk about marketing stuff, but I feel like it's maybe a weird time to start a profession in marketing communications because we're at a point in history where the change in technology and tools for communication.
Yep.
There's been so much disruption in the last 10 years, last 5 years, last 2 years that people don't know what they're like. It takes a lot of work to stay up with everything.
Right.
It's like even if you say about like the Internet of Things,
right?
Like as a marketer, let's say, the internet, like you probably don't know that much,
right?
Because you probably haven't done it. Like even if you've been doing it for 2 years, that's not very long.
Right, because it changes every other day. Like,
right.
There's new things.
These stupid. I think that the SaaS companies are the smart ones. This software as a service.
Yeah.
Because they come up with new stuff all the time, and then they convince marketers to use it, even though the marketers will have no idea how to leverage it.
Right.
But it's shiny and cool, and really, like, the product is really good.
Definitely. Yeah, there's definitely something to those people know, hey, here's something shiny, and they know I'm not going to go to, a CTO or the actual IT manager. I'm going to go to the marketing manager and I'm going to pitch something shiny and hope that they have the budget to buy it, and then let the IT people figure it out.
Right. Long pause. We're rusty.
We are. I should have thought about things to talk about. Okay, so do you think that the fear of missing out is like a truly millennial trait? Or do you think that it's something that everybody's had, but for some reason we've just decided to label
it
as, like to actually put a name to it and like say, oh, well, millennials are always, leaving their jobs and doing things because they have a fear of missing out, when really everyone has always had that. It's just that based on where we are in today's culture and everything, people feel more willing or stable, or like things are to the point where they can take that risk.
Well, I can't really speak for prior generations because I don't know what that experience was like.
Right.
But one thing that I can imagine is that in the past, especially if you go back, 50, 75, 100, 200 years ago, the choices available to someone were probably a lot less.
Sure. Yep.
So,
and even if it was out there, you might not have known about it because
there's way less information. So there's so much information now, so you're aware of so many more things that are possible.
Right.
And they're not just your imagination. You can verify them. And there's also airplanes. Like, the world is so much smaller than it used to be.
Right.
So, I mean, that's what I think. Especially being somebody who has thought since a young age, I want to live in another country for a portion of my life.
Yep.
In college and after college, it's like your thoughts are, I could move to another, like I could move anywhere.
Right.
Probably not to Syria, but Ecuador is pretty stable. So
yeah.
So I think the ability to move, the ability to transfer places, combined with the ability to obtain information about any sort of profession or educational opportunity or volunteer opportunity or, movement, whether it's a social movement or theological movement or anything like that.
Right.
That's maybe that's maybe more on a macro scale. Are you talking about fear about missing out like interpersonally, like socially, like going on Facebook and seeing friends playing disc golf and realizing you're not there?
I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just like it's come up in like a couple of like the books and podcasts I've been listening to, and so I've just been like trying to think about it because I feel like everyone just like labels millennials as like this flight risk in jobs and this like they're never content because they're always afraid that they're missing out on something better. But I feel like that's just and maybe I should ask some older generations, but I feel like every older generation would have wanted other opportunities or would have been curious about them. Just maybe it's the fact that things weren't quite so like visible and accessible, so you didn't even necessarily see the other opportunities to realize like, hey, I'm not content. Maybe there's something else that I could do, right?
Right. So I would guess that fundamentally, as humans, the desire for more and the feeling of discontentment hasn't fundamentally shifted in millennials. Right. I think there is every human being has like this innate understanding that things could be better. You've never met a human that said, yep, it's all good. I don't think we should make any changes.
Right.
Like anybody should, I think, or can't recognize where things could be improved. So on that level, no, I don't think I don't think millennials are that different from other humans. And I think I think sometimes it's a little bit lazy and an overgeneralization to label millennials as this or that.
Right.
It's not that I don't think there isn't differences between generations.
Yep.
I just think when people talk about those differences, it's often not empirically based, and there's a lot of like baggage along with it.
Right.
I also think of the previous couple generations. So like, let's see, your parents wouldn't be baby boomers, right? No.
No.
But the generation before, like their parents, like our parents,
right,
and our parents, think about how much the world has changed. So, like, think about how much desire for something different the previous 2 to 3 generations had to have in order to change the world the amount that it's changed in the last 100 years.
Right.
Like, you can't tell me they were just, in 1910, they were sitting there going, yeah, man, this is good. We don't want it anymore.
Right.
Those people change. I mean, the exponential increase in technology and innovation is proof that those generations wanted something more, and they wanted it so bad that they went out and created an entirely different world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe that's just the actions of a few brilliant people, who convinced everybody else to do it. But I don't know. I think previous generations changed the world too much to say that this generation wants things to be different and that's bad. It's like, what do you mean? You wanted things to be different so bad that you made the world an entirely different place.
Right. See, I feel like older generations might have been more driven out of like I need to do something to improve my situation, like to survive, like more of a survival than just I'm bored and I want to do something new or I want to have an adventure. Does that make sense?
Right.
It might have been more out of a sense of like, I need to provide for my family or, for my community, and therefore I'm going to try and create opportunity for everybody versus more of a, you know what, like I'm 23 and I want to do something new, and I don't want to look back on my life and say that I just played it safe and only provided for my family. I want to do something exciting and adventurous too. I think that maybe some of those thoughts, it's not that they didn't have them, but that they had more of a, you know what, it's important to just be consistent and steady and, provide for your family and for like, look at things in a broader scope than just, hey, when in 10 years, am I going to look back and wish that I had done more adventurous things?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there definitely seems to be a big change in people's careers, that they have many more jobs, like
right.
different positions. But I also wonder, I don't know, like sometimes I wonder, like, oftentimes I think of like incentives. And what are like the bigger infrastructure or economic factors that are playing a part in people's lives? So somebody gets a job and then they leave after 2 to 3 years to go get a different job. And somebody in an older generation might say, wow, they didn't really stay that long.
Right.
But maybe they saw an opportunity where they could advance through a lateral move instead of staying steady and hoping that the decisions of others would allow them to move up. Let's say like in a corporate.
Yeah. Yep.
Like maybe it's faster, and maybe that just has to do with people's ages and who's in front of you and the rate of change that happens at your company versus the rate of change that happens at another company. And and you just weighing those things and going like, well, I could do this for 4 more years and hope to get a promotion, or I could make a move and get that promotion now.
Right. And I think it all at the very end of that comes down to just technology, and that, you know, generations, even 5 years ago, I mean, if you were getting into the workforce or you had, you know, some experience, there wasn't nearly as much out there for you to go see, hey, what other opportunities are there around me or even somewhere else where I can work remote. Like, that wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, can I move somewhere and can I keep my job that's in a whole nother state or a whole nother country and then, you know, keep paying the bills that way? Like, that wasn't even, I don't think thought so.
Yeah. I wonder too if there's an element where people look at people from an older generation look at people in their 20s and they go, "What are you doing? What are you thinking? Why are you making these decisions with your life?" Yep. But I wonder if those people in their 20s, so like us, we will become a lot more like the people who are in their, you know, mid 30s to and above when we get that age. And then we'll look at the next people and go, why? Like, isn't there just an element of in your development, you've got a lot less to lose when you're 24? And every generation, you have a lot less to lose. And so you're just like, I'm going to try all these things and then figure out my spot in life. And then you get a little bit more conservative when you're 32 and 33 and have your first kid and you're, you know, and start thinking about those. I just think some of it has to do with
like,
I mean, you could tell older people, like, don't worry, we'll think like you eventually.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I'm 25. Like, what did you think like when you were 25? You don't think like you think now as a 45-year-old or as a 50-year-old. You're probably a little bit more reckless. You probably were maybe a little bit more open-minded. Maybe you didn't know as much, and so you seemed open-minded because you just hadn't found your path.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that in general, we have fairly short memories. And so then it's like in 10 years, I'll be looking at things and I'll be like, hey, yeah, you got to think much more like this. But that would be contrary to the way that I thought when I was, you know, in a similar place.
Yeah. Maybe I'm just friends with good millennials, but I don't see a lot of when I hear the criticisms. I see a little bit of what they're saying, but the millennials I'm friends with, I guess I don't.
I think
I'm just like, okay, like people who don't like to work aren't working. Like, has that changed?
Exactly.
Like people who are entitled, like, I don't know, like there's entitled 40-year-olds, there's entitled 22-year-olds. I know a lot of driven people that are my age. Is that because they went to college and they were all like trying to educate themselves and like get into grad school or get jobs?
Right.
And then willing to do jobs that didn't line up with their major because they had to survive. It sounds like normal people.
Right.
Like, isn't that what everybody does?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think there's definitely a piece to that of, you know, there's a few people who got the perception from a few interactions and they started, this idea of, okay, let's try and filter down interactions with 100 millennials and decide how are we going to stereotype them. And then based on that, that's what everyone just, you know, if you're always looking to see entitlement or laziness in someone, you're going to see it in anybody, right?
Right.
So when that's what's spoken is like, hey, millennials are entitled or they have this fear of missing out, it's fairly likely that if you actually start looking for that in them, then that's what you're going to see, versus if the message was millennials are really hardworking and they're really willing to diversify their skill set just to, find an opportunity that fits the lifestyle they want to have, then you'd start to probably see, oh yeah, I see that trend as well. So there's definitely a piece of, well, when you stereotype a group and you say, hey, here's the official, this is the weaknesses of millennials, then of course you're gonna start to look for those and you're gonna see them.
So there's, I mean, I agree. There's probably definitely people who blindly do that or purposely do that or whatever, and sort of stick their stake in the ground around that. And there's probably also people that are having to communicate in a new way that they don't understand in order, like there's a difference in communication styles and in core beliefs and values.
Right.
And they're probably just trying to figure out what to do.
Yep.
And they're not trying to be mean or to stereotype, but they're trying to get a picture. I've definitely seen that where people are like, okay, so millennials are like, and it sounds dumb to a millennial. You're like, what? You're trying to figure them out? Like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But I can see if you're 55, you're 60, and you're going, what's this new world that 25-year-olds live in that I don't understand? How am I going to pinpoint it? Like, can you give me a cheat sheet?
Right.
I think there's some people who are just want to communicate and don't know how, or don't know how to interact.
Right.
To me, it's not so much of an issue or of right and wrong. There's just can be a differing in values and styles. I don't know. It seems like if the world changes and society changes, and the people who make up the society are the ones who choose collectively how it's going to go, each with their individual choices.
Right.
And if you're older and it's changing and you like the way it was before, that's not fun, but there's also not a lot you can do about it.
Yep.
But I don't know. Should we write a clickbaity blog post about
probably millennials and FOMO?
Right.
YOLO.
Do you ever feel like getting a job with your hands?
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I get tired of my computer. I'm just like, can I like be a butcher or something?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have times, but that's where I do. It's not necessarily a millennial thing, but it's just you start to look at what you're doing and you're like, am I not doing what I should be doing, or could I be doing something I would be happier doing? Like, I feel like I go through at least once a year, I step back and I do that, right? It's like, okay, am I really, am I just doing what I'm doing because it's secure and, I can provide for my family, or am I selling out? And I think that that's kind of normal to do, though. And then,
oh, for sure, I do that all the time. I do that every week.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I'd say though, like, I don't think selling out is completely bad, because well, I guess it depends on how you sell out. It's
right.
nice to have, it's nice to have money. And when I was back in the States, I wasn't even making a lot of money.
Right.
But just making, like,
consistent.
having a corporate job and making consistent money and stuff. And I mean, there was times when I was a kid and I was poor, and there's been other times here and there where I've tasted in adulthood, and it's just like, being broke sucks.
Yep.
And so there's an element of just like putting up with stuff. You can make good money. It's not completely bad.
Right. I think the biggest thing is, like, you have to understand your, like, what's your purpose and what's going to give you, like, what's the point at which you're going to feel like you're no longer like fulfilling your greater purpose and adding value like on a daily basis? And you can kind of walk that line and combine like, yeah, this might not be my dream job, or this might not be, I may not wake up every single day and be like, I love what I'm doing, but you're working towards a goal, or you're putting yourself in a position where you have free time to do other things that you love, right? And that's another thing for me. It's like kind of like what you were saying about working with your hands. I just make pipes for fun because it's a way to scratch the itch of, using your hands and creating something, because most of my time I'm doing, I'm looking at a computer screen and yeah, I'm creating things, but it's not something that you or someone else can hold in their hands and say, hey, this is cool.
Right. So I back to the millennial things. I think there's some disillusionment because it's hard. So in a globalized world and in these huge, like the complexities of human life now.
Yep.
If you work, it can be very hard to see the value or the purpose if you work for a big company or you're a cog in the machine.
Right.
Because you might be really far removed from the ultimate goal of whatever your organization is trying to achieve. It's difficult to see how that's making an improvement or adding to the world.
Right.
So I think that happens a lot with millennials. You get a job and you have a certain idealism of contributing, and then you go, okay, I'm doing something with Salesforce on a computer screen. I know it's important. I know somebody has to do it, but I have to make about 5 jumps in my mind to figure out how it achieves the end goal that has value in the world.
Right. Yeah.
It has like material value. That's a lot of work every day to say what I'm doing is value, because it's not you're far away from the transaction that's improving the world, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely been important for me, even just like understanding my company's bigger vision, and then even if it's loosely like trying to draw parallels of like how what I'm doing is also like playing into that bigger picture. Because then at least you feel like you're also a part of something bigger and you're contributing, not just like, okay, what value do I really actually bring?
Yeah. As an example, like when I was working at Superior, I had a couple lawns that I mowed for extra cash after work.
Yeah.
And it was such a contrast, working in marketing where like you're spreading like awareness and like increasing the equity of your brand value, which are such vague concepts that are hopefully helping. And going from that to, I'm going to mow this person's lawn, they're going to pay me $20. They need their grass cut, I'm going to cut their grass.
Yep.
Like it was actually really fulfilling to go cut somebody's lawn because I felt like I knew I was providing something directly.
Right. Yep.
And sometimes I'll even, if I think of myself more like whether I'm in a full-time job or not, as someone that's a freelance person, like if you think of your own self as like a business or your own family.
Right.
And you go, I'm selling my time and skills.
Yeah. Yep.
And somebody wants me, whether or not, like I'm not responsible. I'm not the CEO, so I'm not responsible for increasing the value of the company.
Right.
Like it's not actually on me, but I'm helping that person. They're paying me for my skills and expertise.
Yep.
And it's on them, like, to figure out, like they made a judgment call and I don't have to figure out if that's adding value to their business. They have to figure that out. And they could always let me go.
Right.
If I stop doing that. But I know I have some sort of skills and I'm selling that to this person. Sometimes that makes me feel, I don't know, better.
Yep. Yeah, it's definitely important just to keep, like, you got to have purpose in a bigger perspective than just like, oh, I need my job to fulfill my everyday purpose, or else you're going to get, that's where I think a lot of millennials do end up kind of jumping around, because they are looking for a job that like meets their every need and desire for
Yeah, dude.
purpose. And
it's such a pitfall.
It's never going to happen.
It's depressing.
So try and find something that like you can take pride in, and you can challenge yourself and keep growing. But I mean, it's like, if you love drawing, you might just have to draw on the side, and you might have to go work at a Starbucks just to pay the bills. Like, and that there's no shame in that, but people feel like if their everyday job isn't a part of what they're passionate about, then they're not actually like, they haven't arrived yet. And it's like, you know what? Like, there's also something to be said for just being able to be consistent and willing to do something that you might not completely love in order to pay the bills and do what you need to do. And then, you know, make sure that you have outlets where you can be fulfilling your passions and what you're excited about. But
I agree. I've been thinking even more and more about, should I get a job that doesn't even line up with what, quote unquote, my passions are?
Right.
So that I can completely, so like, okay, give an example. Like, I have my weekly blog of like writing short stories and essays.
Yep.
And if I write a corporate press release, that's like a watered down version of my passion. Like, my passion is I want to communicate and be creative.
Right.
But oftentimes in a business, not all the times, but many times it's not the, so I would say that I don't know, I'm not explaining myself very well, but that desire is like an expression of like an artistic desire.
Yep.
And if I try to combine making money with that artistic desire, it could end up really good. And I think that's kind of like the millennial dream, like get paid just to do what you love.
Right.
And it'll always be fun and da 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 da. But I think there's also an element where you might go into that and you might just have like a watered down version of art that you get paid some money for. And there's part of me that goes like, man, is there some job that I could do that's not necessarily a passion, but that I like doing okay?
Yep.
That I could make a lot of money at, and then just let my art be art.
Yep.
And not feel like it needs to be tied to commerce, and I could invest in it for 15, 20 years. And if it turns into an opportunity that makes me money when I'm 40, then I'll go for it after I've put in all my time and gotten better and gotten all the bad work out.
Right. See, yeah, I think that's a huge thing, like you're saying, of when you try to combine your passions and what you love to do with making an income, it's super easy for that to, like, give it 5 years and you're actually not even going to want to do it as your passion, as something fun anymore, because you've wasted the last 5 years, like, not wasted, but you've been halfway fulfilling that and selling out because you're doing it in a less creative way, or you're having to compromise with what you really feel, you know, you'd like your art to be.
Or you're just doing it a lot. Like, you're doing it so much, it's less, it's the fun of the hobby.
Right. And it's all under the stress of, I need to get another, photo session, or I need to write something else in order to pay the bills, instead of just, hey, I'm done with work today. Yeah. I need to de-stress. I'm going to go do my passion.
Yeah, I'm going to go paint or something. Yeah.
Right. That's why I've kind of, like, with the pipes, I've kind of even stopped looking for commissioned pieces, because you're still then on a timeline and on I need to try and make this be what somebody else wants, versus, you know what? Like, what if I just make one pipe a month and I try and sell it then for what I want? And if nobody buys it, then I'm going to smoke it. And, like, it's just a fun thing for me. And hopefully somebody else sees value in it. But if not, you don't have that underlying pressure of,
like, I got to turn this around.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, like if I don't have time this week, I don't have to then choose, do I sacrifice, family time or just me time to try and knock out this pipe on a timeline instead of just being able to go sit in the garage and just sit back and relax and work on something kind of as a art piece instead of a product, that you have to output. So.
Yeah, man. I'm going to become a Salesforce admin and then just model my life after your template there.
Hey, Salesforce is awesome, and you probably could become a Salesforce admin. But hey,
I forget what's all the training stuff on what's Salesforce Trailhead?
Yeah,
is that free or not?
It's completely free. You should go through some of them just for fun, and then all of the people who try to reach out to me, all the recruiters on LinkedIn, I'll just send them your name.
Right.
Man. Well,
I should maybe go look at that.
It's been over an hour here, so I should get back to work.
Yeah, you should get back to work.
But
okay,
it was awesome to catch up, and I will talk to you later, dude.
Okay, adios, Dave.
Yeah, bye.